I'm going out to clean the pasture spring. I'll only stop to rake the leaves away, and wait to watch the water clear, I may. I shan't be gone long, you come too. I'm going out to fetch the little calf that's standing by the mother. It's so young, it totters when she licks it with her tongue. I shan't be gone long, you come too. Home Burial. He saw her from the bottom of the stairs before she saw him. She was starting down, looking back over her shoulder at some fear. She took a doubtful step and then undid it to raise herself and look again. He spoke, advancing toward her. What is it you see from up there always? For I want to know. She turned and sank up upon her skirts at that, and her face changed from terrified to dull. He said to gain time, What is it you see? Mounting until she cowered under him. I will find out now. You must tell me, dear. She, in her place, refused him any help, with the least stiffening of her neck in silence. She let him look, sure that he wouldn't see, blind creature. And a while he didn't see, but at last he murmured, Oh, and again, oh. What is it? What? She said. Just that I see. You don't, she challenged. Tell me what it is. The wonder is I didn't see at once. I never noticed it from here before. I must be wanted to it, that's the reason. The little graveyard where my people are, so small the window frames, the whole of it. Not so much larger than a bedroom, is it? There are 3 stones of slate and 1 of marble, broad-shouldered little slabs there in the sunlight on the side hill. We haven't to mind those. But I understand it is not the stones, but the child's mound. Don't, she cried. She withdrew, shrinking from beneath his arm that rested on the banister and slid downstairs, and turned on him with such a daunting look. He said twice over before he knew himself, Can't a man speak of his own child he's lost? Not you. Oh, where's my hat? Oh, I don't need it. I must get out of here. I must get air. I don't know rightly whether any man can. Amy, don't go to someone else this time. Listen to me. I won't come down the stairs. He sat and fixed his chin between his fists. There's something I should like to ask you, dear. You don't know how to ask it. Help me, then. Her fingers moved the latch for all reply. My words are nearly always an offense. I don't know how to speak of anything so as to please you. But I might be taught, I should suppose. I can't say I see how. A man must partly give up being a man with women folk. We could have some arrangement by which I'd bind myself to keep hands off anything special you're a mind to name. though I don't like such things twixt those that love. Two that don't love can't live together without them. But two that do can't live together with them. She moved the latch a little. Don't go. Don't carry it to someone else this time. Tell me about it. If it's something human. Let me into your grief. I'm not so much unlike other folks as you're standing there apart would make me out. Give me my chance. I do think, though, you overdo it a little. What was it brought you up to think it the thing to take your mother loss of a first child so inconsolably in the face of love? You'd think his memory might be satisfied. There you go sneering now. I'm not. You make me angry. I'll come down to you. God, what a woman. And it's come to this. A man can't speak of his own child that's dead. You can't because you don't know how to speak. If you had any feelings, you that dug with your own hand, how could you? His little grave. I saw you from that very window there, making the gravel leap and leap in the air, leap up like that, and land so lightly and roll back down the mound beside the hole. I thought, who is that man? I don't know you. And I crept down the stairs and up the stairs to look again, and still your spade kept lifting. Then you came in. I heard your rumbling voice out in the kitchen, and I don't know why, but I went near to see with my own eyes. You could sit there with the stains on your shoes, of the fresh earth from your own baby's grave, and talk about your everyday concerns. You had stood the spade up against the wall, outside there in the entry, for I saw it. I shall laugh the worst laugh I ever laughed. I'm cursed. God, if I don't believe I'm cursed. I can repeat the very words you were saying. 3 foggy mornings and 1 rainy day will rot the best birch fence a man can build. Think of it. Talk like that at such a time. What had how long it takes a birch to rot, to do with what has in the darkened parlor? You couldn't care. The nearest friends can go with anyone to death, come so far short. They might as well not try to go at all. No, from the time when one is sick to death, one is alone, and he dies more alone. Friends make pretense of following to the grave, but before one is in it, their minds are turned and making the best of their way back to life, and living people and things they understand. But the world's evil. I won't have grief, so if I can't change it, oh, I won't. There, you have said it all, and you feel better. You won't go now. You're crying. Close the door. The heart's gone out of it. Why keep it up? Amy, there's someone coming down the road. You think the talk is all? I must go. Somewhere out of this house. How can I make you? If you do, she was opening the door wider. Where do you mean to go? First tell me that. I'll follow and bring you back by force. I will. The fear. A lantern light from deeper in the barn shone on a man and woman in the door, and threw their lurching shadows on a house nearby, all dark in every glossy window. A horse's hoof pawed once the hollow floor, and the back of the gig they stood beside moved in a little. The man grasped a wheel. The woman spoke out sharply, "Whoa, stand still." "I saw it just as plain as a white plate," she said, as the light on the dashboard ran along the bushes at the roadside. "A man's face. You must have seen it too." "I didn't see it." "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure." "It was a face?" "Joel, I'll have a look. I can't go in. I can't. And leave a thing like that unsettled. Doors locked and curtains drawn will make no difference. I always have felt strange when we come home to the dark house after so long an absence." And the key rattled loudly into place, seemed to warn someone to be getting out at one door as we entered at another. What if I'm right, and someone all the time? Don't hold my arm. I say it's someone passing. You speak as if this were a traveled road. You forget where we are. What is beyond that he'd be going to or coming from at such an hour of night, and on foot too? What was he standing still for in the bushes? It's not so very late. It's only dark. There's more in it than you're inclined to say. Did he look like... He looked like anyone. I'll never rest tonight unless I know. Give me the lantern. You don't want the lantern. She pushed past him and got it for herself. You're not to come, she said. This is my business. If the time's come to face it, I'm the one to put it the right way. He'd never dare. Listen. He kicked a stone. Hear that? Hear that? He's coming towards us. Joel, go in, please. Hark. I don't hear him now, but please go in. In the first place, you can't make me believe it is, or someone else he sent to watch. And now the time to have it out with him, while we know definitely where he is. Let him get off, and he'll be everywhere around us, looking out of trees and bushes, till I shan't dare to see a foot outdoors. And I can't stand it. Joel, let me go. But it's nonsense to think he'd care enough. You mean you couldn't understand his caring? No, but you see, he hadn't had enough. Joel, I won't, I promise you. We mustn't say hard things. You mustn't either. I'll be the one if anybody goes. But you give him the advantage with this light. What couldn't he do to us standing here? And if to see was what he wanted, why, he has seen all there is and gone. He appeared to forget to keep his hold, but advanced with her as she crossed the grass. What do you want? She cried to all the dark. She stretched up tall to overlook the light that hung in both hands hot against her skirt. "There's no one, so you're wrong," he said. "What do you want?" she cried. And then herself was startled when an answer really came. Nothing. It came from well along the road. She reached a hand to Joel for support. The smell of scorching woolen made her faint. "What are you doing round this house at night?" "Nothing." A pause. There seemed no more to say. And then the voice again. "You seem afraid. I saw by the way you whipped up the horse. I'll just come forward in the lantern light and let you see." "Yes, do. Joel, go back." She stood her ground against the noisy steps that came on, but her body rocked a little. "You see," the voice said. "Oh." She looked and looked. "You don't see. I've a child here by the hand. A robber wouldn't have his family with him." "What's a child doing at this time of night?" "Out walking. Every child should have the memory of at least one long after bedtime walk." "What, son?" "Then I should think you'd try to find somewhere to walk." "The highway, as it happens. We're stopping for the fortnight down at Dean's." "But if that's all, Joel, you realize you won't think anything. You understand? You understand that we have to be careful. This is a very, very lonely place. Joel." She spoke as if she couldn't turn. The swinging lantern lengthened to the ground. It touched. It struck. It clattered and went out. Birches. When I see birches bend to left and right across the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them. But swinging doesn't bend them down to stay. Ice storms do that. Often you must have seen them, loaded with ice, a sunny winter morning after a rain. They click upon themselves as the breeze rises and turn many-colored as the stir cracks and crazes their enamel. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away. You'd think the inner dome of heaven had fallen. They are dragged to the withered bracken by the load, and they seem not to break, though once they are bowed, so low for long, they never right themselves. You may see their trunks arching in the woods, years afterwards, trailing their leaves on the ground like girls on hands and knees that throw their hair before them over their heads to dry in the sun. But I was going to say when truth broke in, with all her matter of fact about the ice storm, I should prefer to have some boy bend them as he went out and in to fetch the cows. Some boy too far from town to learn baseball, whose only play was what he found himself, summer or winter, and could play alone. One by one, he subdued his father's trees by writing them down over and over again, until he took the stiffness out of them. And not one but hung limp, not one was left for him to conquer. He learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon, and so not carrying the tree away, clear to the ground. He always kept his poise to the top branches, climbing carefully with the same pains you use to fill a cup up to the brim, and even above the brim. Then he flung outward, feet first with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So was I once myself a swinger of branches, and so I dream of going back to be. It's when I'm weary of considerations, and life is too much like a pathless wood, where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs broken across it, and one eye is weeping from a twig's having lashed across it open. I'd like to get away from earth a while, and then come back to it and begin over. May no fate willfully misunderstand me, and half grant what I wish and snatch me away not to return. Earth's the right place for love. I don't know where it's likely to go better. I'd like to go by climbing a birch tree, and climb back branches upon a snow-white trunk toward heaven, till the tree could bear no more, but dipped its top and set me down again. That would be good, both going and coming back. One could do worse than be a swinger of birches. To the thawing wind. Come with rain, O loud southwester. Bring the singer, bring the nester. Give the buried flower a dream. Make the settled snowbank steam. Find the brown beneath the white. But whatever you do tonight, bathe my window, make it flow, melt it as the ice will go. Melt the glass and leave the sticks, like a hermit's crucifix. Burst into my narrow stall, swing the picture on the wall, run the rattling pages o'er, scatter poems on the floor, turn the poet out the door. A lone striker. The swinging mill bell changed its rate to tolling like the counter of fate. And though at that the tardy ran, one failed to make the closing gate. There was a law of God or man, that on the one who came too late, the gate for half an hour be locked, his time be lost, his pittance docked. He stood rebuked and unemployed. The straining mill began to shake. The mill, though many-eyed, had eyes inscrutably opaque, so that he couldn't look inside to see if some forlorn machine was standing idle for his sake. He couldn't hope its heart would break. And yet he thought he saw the scene. The air was full of dust and wool. 1,000 yarns were under pull, but pull so slow, with such a twist, all day from spool to lesser spool. It seldom overtaxed their strength. They safely grew in slender length, and if one broke by any chance, the spinner saw it at a glance. The spinner still was there to spin. That's where the human still came in. Her deft hand showed with finger rings among the harp-like spread of strings. She caught the pieces end to end, and with a touch that never missed, not so much tied as made them blend. Man's ingenuity was good. He saw plainly where he stood, yet found it easy to resist. He knew another place, a wood, and in it, tall as trees, were cliffs. And if he stood on one of these, 'twould be among the tops of trees, their upper branches round him wreathing, their breathing mingled with his breathing. If he stood. Enough of ifs. He knew a path that wanted walking. He knew a spring that wanted drinking, a thought that wanted further thinking, a love that wanted renewing. Nor was this just a way of talking to save him the expense of doing. With him it boded action, deed. The factory was very fine. He wished it all the modern speed. Yet after all, 'twas not divine. That is to say, 'twas not a church. He never would assume that he'd be any institution's need. But he said then, and still would say, if there should ever come a day when industry seemed like to die, because he left it in the lurch, or even merely seemed to pine for want of his approval, why, come get him. They knew where to search. Love and a Question. A stranger came to the door at eve, and he spoke the bridegroom fair. He bore a green-white stick in his hand, and, for all burden, care. He asked with the eyes more than the lips for a shelter for the night, and he turned and looked at the road afar without a window light. The bridegroom came forth into the porch with, "Let us look at the sky, and question what of the night to be, stranger, you and I." The woodbine leaves littered the yard. The woodbine berries were blue. Autumn, yes. Winter was in the wind. Stranger, I wish I knew. Within, the bride in the dusk alone bent over the open fire. Her face rose red with the glowing coal and the thought of her heart's desire. The bridegroom looked at the weary road, yet saw but her within, and wished her heart in a case of gold and pinned with a silver pin. The bridegroom thought it a little to give a dole of bread, a purse, a heartfelt prayer for the poor of God, or for the rich a curse. But whether or not a man was asked to mar the love of two by harboring woe in the bridal house, the bridegroom wished he knew. An old man's winter night. All out of doors looked darkly in at him. Through the thin frost, almost in separate stars, that gathers on the pane in empty rooms. What kept his eyes from giving back the gaze was the lamp tilted near them in his hand. What kept him from remembering the need that brought him to the creaking room was age. He stood with barrels round him, at a loss, and having scared the cellar under him, and clomping there, he scared it once again, and clomping off, and scared the outer night, which has its sounds familiar, like the roar of trees and crack of branches, common things, but nothing so like beating on a box. A light he was to know one but himself, where now he sat, concerned with he knew what, a quiet light, and then not even that. He consigned to the moon, such as she was, so late arising to the broken moon, as better than the sun in any case, for such a charge. His snow upon the roof, his icicles along the wall to keep, and slept. The log that shifted with a jolt, once in the stove, disturbed him, and he shifted, and eased his heavy breathing, but still slept. One aged man, one man, can't keep a house, a farm, a countryside. Or, if he can, it's thus he does it of a winter night. The figure in the doorway. The grade surmounted. We were riding high through level mountains, nothing to the eye, but scrub oak, and the lack of earth that kept the oaks from getting any girth. But as through the monotony we ran, we came to where there was a living man. His great gaunt figure filled his cabin door, and had he fallen inward on the floor, he must have measured to the further wall. But we who passed were not to see him fall. The miles and miles he lived from anywhere were evidently something he could bear. He stood unshaken, and if grim and gaunt, it was not necessarily from want. He had the oaks for heating and for light. He had a hen, he had a pig in sight. He had a well, he had the rain to catch. He had a 10 by 20 garden patch. Nor did he lack for common entertainment, that I assume was what our passing train meant. He could look at us in our dinner eating, and if so moved, uncurl a hand in greeting. Going for water. The well was dry beside the door, and so we went with pail and can across the fields behind the house to seek the brook if still it ran, not loth to have excuse to go, because the autumn eve was fair, though chill, because the fields were ours, and by the brook our woods were there. We ran as if to meet the moon that slowly dawned behind the trees, the barren boughs without the leaves, without the birds, without the breeze. But once within the wood, we paused, like gnomes that hid us from the moon, ready to run to hiding new, with laughter when she found us soon. Each laid on another a staying hand, to listen ere we dared to look, and in the hush we joined to make, we heard, we knew, we heard the brook. A notice from a single place, a slender tinkling fall that made, now drops that floated on the pool, like pearls, and now a silver blade. A patch of old snow. There's a patch of old snow in a corner that I should have guessed was a blow-away paper the rain had brought the rest. It is speckled with grime, as if small print overspread it, the news of a day I've forgotten, if I ever read it. A time to talk. When a friend calls to me from the road and slows his horse to a meaning walk, I don't stand still and look around on all the hills I haven't hoed and shout from where I am, "What is it?" No, not as there is a time to talk. I thrust my hoe in the mellow ground, blade end up at 5 feet tall, and plod. I go up to the stone wall for a friendly visit. Bereft. Where had I heard this wind before, change like this to a deeper roar? What would it take my standing there for, holding open a restive door, looking downhill to a frothy shore? Summer was past and day was past. Somber clouds in the west were massed. Out in the porch's sagging floor, leaves got up in a coil and hissed, blindly struck at my knee and missed. Something sinister in the tone told me my secret must be known. Word I was in the house alone somehow must have gotten abroad. Word I was in my home alone. Word I had no one left but God. Sitting by a bush in broad sunlight. When I spread out my hand here today, I catch no more than a ray. To feel off between thumb and fingers, no lasting effect of it lingers. There was one time, and only the one, when dust really took in the sun, and from that one intake of fire, all creatures still warmly suspire. And if men have watched a long time, and never seen sun-smitten slime, again come to life and crawl off. We must not be too ready to scoff. God once declared he was true, and then took the veil and withdrew. And remember how final a hush then descended of old on the bush. God once spoke to people by name. The sun once imparted its flame. One impulse persists as our breath. The other persists as our faith. The Ovenbird. There is a singer everyone has heard, loud, a midsummer and a midwood bird, who makes the solid tree trunks sound again. He says that leaves are old, and that for flowers, midsummer is to spring as 1 to 10. He says the early petal fall is past, when pear and cherry bloom went down in showers, on sunny days a moment overcast. And comes that other fall we name the fall. He says the highway dust is over all. The bird would cease and be as other birds, but that he knows in singing not to sing. The question that he frames in all but words is what to make of a diminishing thing. Waspish. On glossy wires artistically bent, he draws himself up to his full extent. His natty wings with self-assurance perk, his stinging quarters menacingly work. Poor egotist, he has no way of knowing, but he's as good as anybody going. Nothing gold can stay. Nature's first grain is gold, her hardest hue to hold, her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief, so dawn goes down to day. Nothing gold can stay. Thank you all so much for listening to another episode of Quiet the Elk. I hope you were able to get some sleep, some rest, meditation, whatever you needed. I hope you were able to just quiet your mind and relax while listening to some Robert Frost poems. I'll see you all in the next episode.